What's up guys, Peepo here, and this is going to be the first video of a series. I don't really have a name for it yet. I think it's gonna be basically Peepo's best suggested heads, but I don't really have a name yet. I'll figure it out by the time I actually post this, but so just bear with me on that. This video is just the start of a series of videos that I'm going to be talking about my top 10 preferred heads. Not my favorites, but my preferred heads that I would strongly recommend for you, either my friends, fellow players, fellow stringers, doesn't matter who you are. My top 10 heads, in no particular order, from first to last or whatever. I'm just going to go with it. Maybe I'll do it by popularity with everybody else, but whatever. It is talking about my top 10 preferred heads for traditionals. These heads are also decent for mesh, but these top 10 heads are going to be heads that I can sit there and I will tell you every single time that this head has an amazing quality of one, stringability, and then overall performance with a traditional in it. My main thing, I'll just hit most of my points right now as to what I recommend for a traditional head, and then once I actually introduce the heads with the later episodes of this short series, it will be every Thursday. Unless I have something else happen, I'll try and always have it up on Thursday. If not, it'll be up every week for the next 10 weeks. But so I'll just do a loose discussion, or at least saying what I feel is good for a head. And once I do the actual head itself, I'll hit more so on the key points as to why that head specifically meets my criteria. So hopefully you enjoy that. I'll try and keep this short for you. But so a lot of the criteria for me as far as a traditional compatible head is, first off, the stringability. I'm not going to show any heads right now, whether they're traditional or not, because it's just you and me talking. I just want you to listen. I know it's kind of weird considering it's a video, but it's whatever. You can just put me, if you want, you can just put me to the side and listen while you're doing something else, but it's your choice. But so I might have something to fidget with and whatnot. But so my main thing is stringability. Heads too often aren't really looked at as, will that head string well? When it comes to traditional, one of the main things that I look for is the stringability. When I talk about stringability, I mean I'm referring to the top hole spacing, top hole sizes, shapes of the top holes, spacing of the top holes. It's a huge thing for me, is spacing and size. With your side wall holes, I also, again, I go for size. I go for shape. I'm sure some of you are chuckling at all this right now. But also number of sidewall holes. Again, positioning of those sidewall holes. Whether or not they'll be able to take a certain method as to how it'll get strung. Whether a leather or a string can go through it. This is one of a lot of little things that are overlooked way too often. And then again, with the sidewall holes and the top holes, we come into your bottom string holes. That's another really big thing for me about traditionals, is your bottom holes. Will they fit leathers? What kind of leathers? What size of leathers? What material of leathers? Will it fit? Will it go through? Will it be able to tie off? I also kind of look at the throat of the head. Will I be able to do a wraparound? Will I be able to just loop it through the throat, come back out the front, and come back behind the head and tie it off behind the head? Which is one of my major preferences, is that I like to be able to tie off the leathers behind the head, rather than just go through the bottom holes, go around the throat of the head to the front of the head and just tie off, because I just feel the pocket is more secure if you're able to wrap it around completely around the throat at least once and come back to the back of the head and tie off. One, it's kind of out of your way, and then two, the pocket just feels more secure, which is a really big thing, because you don't. Most of the time, people are like, "Oh my gosh, if that comes undone, the pocket's just gonna screw up." So you got to think about that. There's a lot of different ways to tie off stuff on the head, and customization is more or less big, but there is such thing as probably too much or too little. So I'll get into that when I get specifically into talking about the different heads that I'm going to show you guys. After that, it's your offset. Whether you string a head flat, or you string it at depth, or even beyond depth, or whatever, or half, or freehand it. Being able to go with the flow of the head as far as like your sidewall silhouette, your sidewall structure, and everything like that. Will the leathers flow with that, or will the sidewalls work against what you're trying to build or string? And that's one of the main things that I really try to focus on. Before I even start to string a head, I'll look at it for a little while, and I'll be like, I could do this, or I could do that. I don't think that would work. No, that definitely won't work. And that's the thing. Like I try to map out what I can do with that head before I ever string it. And I think that's one of the main things, is that people are like, "Oh yeah, I can put a trad in that." Okay, cool, you can put a trad in that, but will it be any good? Not because of your stringing ability, but will that head become what that pocket needs? Is that head what that pocket needs? Like, is it compatible? Is the compatibility between the head and the pocket there? It's just like with trying to figure out if a head's more so focused towards a defender, a midfielder, or an attackman. Will the structure of the sidewall support this type of pocket that you want? Your play style, is it stiff enough? It's the same sort of thing, and it's little nuances involving the actual construction of the head that determine, to me, whether or not that head is good for a traditional, or if I can make the traditional work with the head. Most of the time, you can make a traditional pretty much always work with a head, but will it be like bread and butter, or toast and jelly, or bagel and cream cheese? Will it just like feel like it goes together? Will you be able to know that those two things go together? And I mean, after that, you need to know if you're going to be able to do shooters. Most of the time, again, with the sidewalls, depending on how you try and string the head, you won't be able to secure the shooters to where they're actually going to perform, where they're going to stay secure, whether or not they're going to come undone, stuff like that. It's really a matter of mapping out the pocket and whether or not it's going to work out. And hopefully you guys are not like, man, you're really thinking way too much about this. It's like, no, you wouldn't pick a head just purely, oh, that looks like a cool head, that would be, I think that will work for me, and then it ends up being crappy. People should do research. You should really analyze what you're about to do to it and go from there. That's what I feel when it comes to traditionals. I analyze the heck out of a head. I want to try and put a trad in every head, but before I ever even do it, I'll probably end up saying, you know what, no, that head, I could put one in there, but it won't be good. Let's put it this way, if I'm not willing to put it in there, it means that I'm not willing to use it personally. I'll put it in there, but it doesn't mean that I'm willing to use it. It doesn't, like, let me put it this, here's the best way I can put it. If I put a traditional in a head for someone, if I don't feel like a part of me is leaving, like I've lost a part of myself by giving you this stick, which pretty much every traditional I do, I'm putting a lot of who I am into it. But if it feels like I'm giving you my baby, even though it's yours, I'm giving you my baby, then it's not a good traditional. I don't feel confident that it's a good one. It's very rare that I don't feel confident about one of my traditionals going out into the world. And so if you don't have that feeling with mesh, why would you let somebody walk away and try and use it? It's the same thing with traditional. So that's pretty much what this series is going to be about. Talking about these 10 heads and why I feel they meet that criteria. And I'll get into specifics for each head, but that's the criteria that we're going to be looking at for these 10 heads, and why I feel they are 10 of the best heads to put a traditional in. Any traditional. It doesn't matter if it's a classic, a Trad X, a Rocket Pocket, doesn't matter. If you want a traditional, these heads are what I'll point you towards. There's other heads that are pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of heads out there that I'll put a traditional in, but these are going to be, depending on what you want, I'm going to point you towards one of these 10 heads. I have no affiliation. None of these companies have told me, hey, you should talk about my thing, blah, 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 blah. No, none of them have said that. This is purely by experience and actually liking these heads. No one has swayed me into talking about these heads. I've been wanting to do this video for a while. So hopefully you guys get a lot out of it. Hopefully you guys enjoy listening as much as I enjoy talking about it. And I'll let you guys go. Thanks for listening, and I hope you guys enjoy this series. Catch you later.